Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Akram Shaban. This is Versan, and we'll hear back. And I wanted to see how is everything going on, especially with Versan right now. How is everything, especially on the podcast you made? Amazing podcast with you, Vendel, and Edo. What do you think about
Thanks.
it? Yeah,
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We put out a good video the other day where we talked about the Cloward pivot strategy, which is basically how they strategically infiltrate the U.S. to collapse the country from within, and that kind of ties into the open borders and, of course, the lockdowns that occurred and what you see happening in the monetary system. And we put a video of Catherine Austin Fitts confirming a lot of the stuff we were talking about. And this is stuff you won't see on YouTube. You'll see on Rumble, perhaps, or maybe X. And they removed it. I got a strike for violating policies. And then in the questionnaire, it asks, like, well, it manipulates the question to where you have to answer it, which is the lie that goes with their narrative. And it's kind of scary, because if they can control the narrative, then they control pretty much the information war, the flow of it, and which direction the information goes in. And it's very concerning because majority of the population still get their news from YouTube. If they're not getting it from the mainstream now that they don't trust it, they go to these private platforms like YouTube, which is owned by Google, and Google is owned by the CIA.
correct, correct. Yeah, I just
Yep.
want to just make sure like how's your date going as well. I
It's always
know.
good, man. I can't complain. I'm just very busy.
Mm,
I'm very tired as well. Um, I'm always researching, and I'm trying to just be a few steps ahead for the family, for myself, and I always want that competitive edge. Um, that way, when things unfold the way they do, as they have in the digital asset space, for instance, like we're prepared. You know,
correct,
yeah.
correct. Well, I just want to also speak to you about also the discussion we had last time yesterday, and I want the people who are listening right now to, uh, you know, uh, listen to what we're going to be saying right here because there's a lot of things that's going on with what happened on that stream, that live between you and Edo, and the comments you've seen against what you've seen and what you think about them. And we spoke about this discussion yesterday, so I want to just cover what we really spoke about yesterday.
Yeah, so I read the comments. I
Mm,
think it's important to connect with people, and I tried my best to do that. In fact, I spent more time reaching out to people and having a one-on-one discussion with them, and even calling strangers. And some of these people were shocked, but I had more time before to give it all I could and explain things and try to break it down for them and send documents to these people. And I've gotten so busy, I don't have time to do that anymore. I don't have that luxury of time anymore. So when I'm kind of going through the comments now, I of course read the ones that where people haven't seen something, let's say I put out a week ago or 2 weeks ago, right? Because we talk about everything. I can guarantee you at some point we've covered pretty much everything that is now unfolding, and it's not with just crypto and the banking system, but also some of the grander narratives as far as what's happening with the Trump. And there are just so many narratives, and some people will leave comments because they don't have all the facts. They don't live the kind of life that I do, and many of the watchers out here who are constantly and diligently trying to figure out this matrix. They're trying to understand the world we live in and what's happening. So not everybody has the facts, but um, when I read some of the comments, there are some people in the space who have labeled me as a negative person, pessimistic, black pilled, or doom and gloom. But I promise you guys, that's just foolishness. Um, Calling someone black pill or doom and gloom are people who are too afraid to confront the realities of the situation they're dealt with, the cards that they're dealt with. And they jump to a conclusion and say you're negative because they don't want to hear it, because it forces them to acknowledge a truth that they don't want to hear. And it convinces them and corners them to adopt to what now they know, right? The new lessons they've learned. So there are just so many people that are, I think, foolish and very naive in this space. And it's not just this space, it's all over the world, right? And when you look at the data, both the old data, the new data, and critically analyze pretty much the situation without, let's say, the mainstream's deceptive filters, because they kind of take information and filter it in their way so that they can control the narrative of how they're strategically releasing this information. So this is a very advanced psychological warfare where old data and things that have been revealed 20 years ago that are now being revealed, they don't realize that even those lies from 20 years ago, despite that their grip on society and the mainstream news was not so constricted, those lies, those narratives have been constructed very carefully that was designed to link the past to what we see happening now in the present. And most people, I think, in this space, and those are the like individuals who leave those comments, right? They it's easy for them to like accept very basic surface level information and basically reject anything that challenges their new worldview. And I call it a new worldview because it's really over the last like 5 years where many people have went into this great awakening, they call it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's not true. This is not a great awakening.
A late
Maybe
awakening.
it's a very late awakening. That's correct, and a very late reckoning as well.
Mm.
And I say new worldviews because in the last 5 years, again, people have completely changed, and their mentality has changed. Their thought process. They invoke some of them the right questions, others don't. Um, and I think a lot of people lack access to some of the deeper knowledge that's out there and a lot of the off record conversations, not the ones that I've had. And by the way, I had the privilege to speak with people who worked with George Bush, who worked in the Oval Office, who worked with central banks, multimillionaires and billionaires. I've spoken to a few of these people. And I'm not talking about myself, though. I'm also referring that off record conversations that take place on Rumble. These are considered supposed to be decentralized platforms where you can really get some serious intel because Google has scrubbed everything off the internet. You're not going to find some real hardcore truths on YouTube. You might find some of them segments now on X, but again, Rumble. And not, to mention that Rumble now is 50% owned by BlackRock. So, like, what
Oh.
the hell's going on over there, right? Anyways, so I tried to respond to these comments, but I don't have the time again. But the situation that we're experiencing really is a trap within a trap. And I'm going to get into some very deep history shortly here. But what they've done is they've managed to subvert the majority of the right, and they have managed to subvert the majority of the left. And what they've done is tried to lead people away from the real battle that lies within themselves up here. And that's really the battle. So instead of people seeking the truth, and they think they're seeking the truth, but many of them, I think, have even made idols of these politicians and public figures like Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson. These are people look up to. They look up to these individuals, and whether they want to acknowledge it or not, they are actually worshiping these people like false idols, whether they acknowledge it or not. When
Correct.
you're constantly looking up to somebody else to, like, I don't know, fix things, give you a sense of comfort, that's like a false idol. And a lot of people like Swifties, Taylor Swift, you
Yeah.
have your Swifties. Those are
Yeah.
people following a false idol, and Taylor Swift is nothing but demonic. And I don't want to get into that, but it's
Correct.
very ironic because when you address these people and try to explain these things that we're talking about here to them, they despise the other side of the truth because it threatens, again, the truth that they're comfortable with, the beliefs that they've built upon in recent years. Again, this new worldview. And this has been formed though through twisted propaganda. And that's exactly how they are being deceived, many of them. So it's not nothing to do with the guys in the comments anymore, but you see a lot of stupidity in there. And, I wish I had more time to help people, and they have to go do their own research. You really have to. This is a battle within the self. And a lot of these individuals are so wrapped up in their own echo chambers and thoughts and beliefs that what we've seen is that they've refused to like look at the other side of the argument for the right reasons. And, you know, because if they did so, it would mean that they have to confront a reality that they're not ready for, and that's the fact that they've been misled again. And I'll get into some more stuff, but there's this White Hat Alliance, and I want to talk about that here in a moment. So
Yeah, I want to also like revert back when you said BlackRock has 50% of Rumble. Now, from my what I think what they're trying to do, because Rumble is a platform where people can speak and expose even governments and things that is going on in the world. So I think BlackRock is trying to control and buy the whole company so they can control what's been put out on the platform itself.
I see what you mean, and I totally agree with you, and I think X is the same way. Um, See, I think what they're doing is trying to create this deceptive sense of freedom. So you go out there and you say what you need to say, whether they label it anti-Semitic or offensive or racist or this or that, gender, green environment, and you try to expose all these things. That's what most people do now on X and Rumble. They try to expose these deceptive agendas. Now, the fact that you have that freedom to do so, I've speculated that you have to be very careful what you share with people. I'm way past that though. I've already fucked that up for myself because I have a very big mouth. I talk a lot because I have so much to say, and I've said too much already. So I can't go back into hiding. But I tell people, be careful what you put out there, your thoughts, because once it's out there, they know what you think. And that could be actually their greatest weapon against you. Letting you expose what needs to be exposed so that they know who you are and where you are. And now, if you're exposing pedophilia, for instance, they know exactly who you are and they know where to find you and take you out if necessary. It's just
Correct.
something to be mindful of because they're very smart. They're not stupid. These CEOs and executives, I mean, I'm telling you guys, this goes into a lot of history will tie into this conversation. So I'm just saying be mindful because they're very conniving and very sneaky. So they offer you a false sense of freedom, a counterfeit kind of freedom. So you go and do something and now they have you right-handed.
Correct. Yeah.
Uh,
That before we touch into history, I know you said the definition of Lucifer. It's show. It's like you said. It's light and it's like deception. It's like it's
mhm.
not. They see that what the people see is like, okay, this is light. This is good things is happening. But what really is behind it is just an illusion. What's and there's a hidden
Well,
devilish demonic message behind it.
absolutely. But for me to explain that, I have to explain one side of this.
Okay.
Um, okay, so there's a lot of information that's coming out that seems like revelations, right? Um,
Hmm.
like Coca-Cola has been exposed, Dasani, the food industries, the pharmaceutical industries, and this is being exposed because people believe that this is the Great Awakening, right? And X is one of the main places, the main platforms right now, where a new kind of misinformation is running very rampant. And while that's going on, people are passively just accepting the higher taxes, the higher inflation. They're not taking action. They just accept everything that's being thrown at them. And as I've already mentioned, like I said this in a tweet, I've said this in podcast, but right now we're living in an economy where the middle class is completely getting squeezed and pushed onto the lower end of society. And there are people on X and Rumble even who are saying that the central banks have been shut down, that the elites have been dealt with. And the reality is not true, because if the central banks were shut down as they claim, well, why are they still able to control the money supply? Why are they able to manipulate the money supply and impoverish millions in the process? But no one wants to hear that. They don't want to hear the facts. They call you doom and gloom, like I said. And you know what they tell me? Trust the plan. And we talked about this yesterday. I said, trust the plan. I said, sure. You just keep trusting the plan until you go broke, just waiting for some false idol to come in like Trump and rescue you. And the truth is, those who do fall into poverty as a result of all of this, I promise you, they will be met with a pre-packaged, predetermined solution that's already been decided for them. And that's the central bank digital currency. There are so many people in the space who say it's not going to happen. That's bullshit. It's going to happen. The idea and the illusion of saying it's not going to happen is that light bearer. So we're going to get into that in a minute. But the entire situation that you see unfolding is a global psyop, and that ties into the whole Trump thing too. And Elon Musk, they will manufacture a hero for you at their choosing. When you need one, they will manufacture it for you, even if it means arresting their own people, executing their own people, throwing them under the bus, having them arrested and blasted all over the mainstream news, just to protect the bigger agenda. You know, you sacrifice the pawn so you can protect the king and queen,
Correct.
right? It's no different.
Mm.
And I can promise you, most people are not aware of what's coming. It's not what they think. There is okay, now this is where we get into scripture. So when I talk to these people off record, like very deep conversations with very reliable and smart people who are many people follow them on YouTube. I'm not surprised. And some of these are top experts in finance, and some are just in the crypto space. But they'll jump to scripture to defend those new world beliefs we talked about. And what they don't realize is that I do the same thing. I can jump to scripture just like that. And many of these people, it seems that they're not aware that Lucifer, the term Lucifer, as mentioned in the Bible, it's also mentioned in the Quran. It's also mentioned in many other religious texts with different ways to describe the same thing, right? Satan, Lucifer, a dragon. Um, Listen, the term itself refers to light bearer, but the light bearer is Lucifer bringing wisdom to you. He's bringing wisdom and truth and self discovery. That's what the light bearer is supposed to do. Well, what a coincidence that everything is coming out when they've been in control the whole time. And this is healthy speculation, guys, because we're going to get into some of the deeper stuff.
Correct.
And if you really, really, really look at the data, and I'm not talking about the guys who are retweeting headlines and just retweeting. Retweeting is, in my opinion, I think it's the dumbest thing anyone could do. Um, I hope people don't stop retweeting my stuff because I said that. But the truth is, you need to contribute, critically think for yourself, and say what you feel to the world and let them digest it. A lot of people in the space, they believe that this awakening process, that awakening process is the light bearer. And what they're doing is twisting it, like I said, with the narratives from the past and the narratives from the present to link them in some way, form, and fashion. So people believe that the emergence of a freedom movement is coming, because the truth is, a lot of this information has been out for more than 20 years. Now, I researched this stuff almost 10 years ago. I just didn't understand it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know what the contributing factors are like I do now, which ties into finance, geopolitics, economics, and that's just the surface of the conversation. We're not even talking about the psychological warfare and the spiritual warfare that's been implemented over hundreds of years. So a lot of the data has been out, but they're strategically releasing this information on purpose to use it as propaganda to push people further into a new kind of deception. And many people think that they're heading towards enlightenment, but really they're being guided in this enlightenment toward a counterfeit of freedom. And that's really what's happening here. And I've studied occultism like you would not believe. I don't talk about it ever because I think it's inappropriate to talk about, but I have studied occultism on another level because for years, to understand occultism, I think you had to do your research to understand it. And for those who truly believe, those who truly seek real truth, that's from within. And those individuals can't be deceived, in my opinion. And we'll get into some of the deeper stuff here shortly, but this ties us into a mass record of history, just so much information that we have to talk about to explain what we just discussed.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and especially right now, from the news I've been hearing, everybody is excited about these rate cuts that is happening this soon and stuff. So I mean, it's all, of course, bullshit, and it's going to have more of inflation, right?
Mhm.
Even reaching to hyperinflation, and I mean, this is quantitative easing that we're heading to.
That's
Just keep,
one part. Yeah.
yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, you're just gonna keep printing more money. So I want you to speak on that as well. Like, what's gonna happen when they cut these rates?
Okay. I was going to save that for the last, but it's
Oh, okay.
important. Let the audience so they don't lose interest and tune out. We will
Yes.
talk about money as well. And again, just being the surface of the conversation. So, yeah, central banks are about to do QE, but basically, what's happening right now is like, are they going to cut interest rates? For those who don't know, when central banks cut interest rates, it means, well, first of all, they have no option. They have to. The question is, when are they going to do it? But when they cut interest rates, it makes borrowing money and printing money easier. So it's easily accessible. And the consequence of lowering interest rates, creating a weaker dollar, actually, not a stronger one, is that it devalues the currency because they have to print so much of it. And when they print money, it steals a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of every other dollar that's already circulating out there in purchasing power. So it's a recipe really for disaster because it weakens the dollar even further. Now, why are they doing this, right? Well, the ones who really benefit the most from rate cuts are the wealthy because um, when they print the freshly new money, um, it's given immediately to the top 1%. Like they have access to it first before anybody. When you can get it like 3 months later, you know what I mean? How it trickles back down to you.
Right.
Right. So they get the
Yeah.
money first, and yeah, they squeeze everybody else. And as a result of that, it creates very high inflation. So then you have people, like I said, the economy that's squeezing people. They're having to sell their car. They're having to sell their gold. They're having to sell their XRP. They're having to sell their house just to keep up with the rising inflation to survive. And it's very sad, because yeah, you're wiping out an entire class of people, and this is now accelerating. So I think we're in the early stages of what is some people call hyperinflation. Well, it's never happened in the U.S., and those out there who say it can't happen are fucking morons. And you can beep that out if you have to, but that there's this has happened many places around the world. The only reason it's taking a lot longer for us is because we are the reserve currency, and other currencies around the world are tied to the dollar. So what are they doing all of a sudden? They are setting up Project Enbridge. They're adopting new financial technologies like XRP, XLM to circumvent this system. And when they do that at the right time and place, it's going to collapse. The Federal Reserve also announced and acknowledged, they didn't announce it, they acknowledged it, that there's only 3% left of buying power in the US dollar.
Yep.
Like, I don't even know where to begin. So,
Damn.
the thing is, once this narrative that we've been discussing for like 5 years now, and people have been doing this longer, I'm not trying to take credit. Pierre Schiff has been saying this for 10 years. I've learned a lot from him and Gregory Mannarino as well. But it's getting to a point where it's the turning point, right? We're now on the brink of a collapse of this system, so we can bridge it to the new system, digital. Now, once this narrative actually hits the mainstream media, that's when you know, the community here who does the research, that's when we're going to know basically that we're nearing the breaking point. I'm sorry. So, you know, The middle class right now is in a very tight position, and we're also overlapping 4 cycles within 4 year cycles. So overlapping cycles, we had recently the Bitcoin halving,
Hmm.
we have the presidential election, and this timing is aligning with the rate cut. I know I talk so fast, guys, but trust me, I'm good at this. Um, it's aligning with the rate cut, and that is needed for central banks to do the debt restructuring. Now, that cannot happen unless interest rates are cut. So all these things are aligning together. And I think I mentioned this already, but when interest rates are lower, they get the top 1%. They get the easy access to the cheap money, and they use it to buy up all the assets that you have to sell because of the high inflation. And it sucks because this is theft. It's illegal. They're impoverishing, again, an entire class of people. And there are so many people that don't deserve this, you know? Like, I'm so grateful to God that we're okay and we're managing. We're and I
Right.
don't lie to the community, and pretend to be someone I'm not. We're all swimming. We're just trying not to drown. There are people out there who are drowning, and
Exactly.
they don't deserve that. And kids, Vindel, he participated in some charity, and it's very sad. I almost teared up when he told me what happened. Some kids
Yeah.
actually go to summer school just so they can get some free food. Like, no child should have to starve.
Oh,
No adult should have to starve. Yet you have the top 1% pushing this climate agenda so they can take more of your food, more of your cows, more of your trees, more of your everything because it's bad for the atmosphere. That's a lie. They're trying to
huge
control
lie.
the resources, and they're trying to consolidate wealth, which will tie us back into the historical context to tie it in with what's happening here. Hence the title of this video, Breaking Free from the Matrix. There are so many cogs in the system, and the financial landscape, which is 90% of what I talk about, is just the surface of the conversation. And history is probably more important than anything because history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, even though I believe it does, but
Yeah.
it repeats itself with a twist that is
Hmm.
new and different, that kind of goes along with the narrative that they're trying to sell to the people to begin with. So we
Right.
can get into that here shortly, but positive news about the interest rate cuts. Gold is going to go up because of all the uncertainty, naturally, and gold prices, silver prices too. In fact, silver is outperforming gold in the short term right now. Very undervalued asset, huge demand for it later on in the future, as soon as, especially if we're transitioning into a digital world.
Right.
So hold precious metals. It's very positive, and rate cuts are actually good for stocks and cryptos as well. So I think this is going to be the final hoorah where they prop up the markets like so heavily, the crypto market. And same thing, you're going to see a short-term euphoric high inflation bull run in 2025 for cryptos. So there are some very positive things, but that's why you want to be on the right side of investment strategy, the right side of history when this occurs. Because if you're not and you're in the wrong places, you're going to get wiped out and fall into
Easily.
poverty very
Yeah.
fast, very fast.
Very,
We
very well.
all of us, we have to be very careful and very mindful of what we do with our money, how we spend it, where we spend it. If you have to cook more at home, do it. It's okay. This is a short-term sacrifice, but the rewards, you'll be able to reap them very soon. And I've been waiting for like 5 years, but I go out for dinner every now and then, but I cook a lot at home, and I even grow some of my own little vegetables. So
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
yeah, just like,
That's good.
like it's nothing fancy like jalapenos, garlic, but hey, it's better than getting it from HEB where it's probably
Exactly.
poisoned, and it's probably a lot more
And
expensive
overpriced.
and
Poison
overpriced.
is
Exactly.
poison is
Yeah,
overpriced.
and those people who go to Whole Foods, this is a fact actually. The people who go to Whole Foods, they think, they think they're all elegant and high class. And I've seen it. Okay. I look at
Yeah.
people and I can just pick up on their aura, and there's nothing there. Um, but what they'll do is they'll feel all high and mighty, and that they're shopping at
Mhm.
an expensive place. They're buying expensive food. But what they don't know is that Amazon has actually been consolidated by the CIA and actually had contracts with the CIA, and Amazon bought Whole Foods. which was really Whole Foods, and now it's all infected too. They just
Um,
don't tell people, and people think they're getting better quality food because they're paying a higher price for it, and that's actually the biggest joke of it all. That's a meme right there. They're paying more money to kill themselves faster. Actually, yeah.
exactly.
You gotta have communities. You gotta go to farmers markets. My friend, I told you, he owns Phoenicia. We went there together,
Phoenicia, yeah.
downtown. Beautiful, beautiful Arabic
Yeah.
grocery store. I know the owner very well. It's all fresh. It's all halal, and it's just good quality food. Do you pay a higher price for it? Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
worth it.
So soon I'll be letting you know once I come and visit, and we can do this in person and just speak our
Yeah,
minds
yeah.
out to
When
the
I get back
audience.
from Dallas, if you'd like, I'm flying first class to Dallas on the 20th.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah, there's still time. I got a lot of stuff to deal with, especially with family. So
Mm.
great stuff. So, but yeah, now history. We need to touch on history right now. So a lot of things like you said yourself, like history doesn't just repeat itself, but it repeats itself with a twist. So I want you to like give us like of course like examples like of like how is it going to play out in today's world.
Well, that's very hard to say, but see,
Mm,
I do trends forecasting, and trends forecasting is pretty much studying historical patterns, studying historical narratives, historical agendas, and of course, historical data, and comparing it with current data, history, current facts, current narratives, and you try to see and correlate to if there's anything there. And history is so important to understand where we are and where we're going. So, trends forecasting is not a hard thing to do anymore. In fact, when they're bombarding us with nonsense and bullshit, we know exactly what it means, right? So, if central, I don't even have to read articles anymore, like to it, like fully thoroughly, because if they put a headline out, it's already done. First of all. So
right.
when the headline comes out, that means the action's already done. It's not like they're going to. So what are they doing now? They're putting example. They're putting out all these headlines about rate cuts, rate cuts. Well, did you hear my podcast like a week ago? I said to people that the markets were already anticipating and pricing it in and reacting as if they cut rates. So
Right.
when they cut rates, it's not going to make a difference. But sure, it's going to eventually, pump the markets, and that's what we see happening with the M2 money supply right now. Global liquidity index, it's all up like 5-10% right now.
And just like you said, also Goldman Sachs executive just
Yeah.
dragging this whole
So
thing. Mhm.
yeah, so I'll give you an example. The markets are already moving right now, but
Yeah.
everyone's waiting for that announcement for the rate cut. You see, they're already
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
You gotta be very careful, man. There's so much bullshit in the world today. Bullshit is the glue.
Ooh, yeah. Dude, I
Holds
also have
things
an
together.
I also have an example as well. Like we said, like previous episode, 1933, like the confiscation of gold, right? Now the confiscation is going to be what we're seeing right now. They're just cutting rates that which means the 1% can get money much more easily and buy all your assets, eat your house, buy it
Mhm.
out because you can't even afford keeping and maintaining these properties and the investments you have. So you have to even sell your investments to keep in cost of living.
That's
So
true.
that's another one. So it's another twist. And who knows? Maybe it won't be confiscating us digitally as if like cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
You know. So
It's a very good and thought. If you pay attention closely to like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, there were rumors before, and I haven't validated this, that they were going to put laws into place for people to not be able to buy certain assets because there are private cryptos out there for the institutions. And I believe XRP is one of them. It was designed for institutional liquidity. Um, I saw a very stupid statement today. Like to read it actually.
Share
on
it.
X. I screenshotted it. It was that stupid. I had to screenshot it. Um, and it's a X account. It's called Vet XO. Anyways, he
Mm,
says if RLUSD, that's real USD, it's a stable coin that was built on the XRP ledger, and RY, the yen, and real euro become very liquid pairs on the DEX, CLOB plus the AMM, which is also built on the XRP ledger, the AMM.
mhm,
XRP won't be used as a bridge asset. Um, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I think one of the biggest problems we have in the crypto space today, especially with the XRP community, is that you have a lot of new accounts, a lot of young people. I'm young, okay, but that's not what I'm saying. A lot of new people coming into the space and pretty much just reiterating the trend, reiterating the story, reiterating the headline while adding additional nuances to create confusion for other people because they don't have all the facts. We've been doing this for 5, 6 years now, studying Ripple and XRP, the technology. And my point, though, is that these new accounts are coming because they want to be relevant to the changes that are happening in real time. And what they're doing is twisting the narrative without even realizing it, thinking that their research is actually correct when all of this stuff that we've talked about over the last 3 years turns out it was said and done almost 5, 6 years ago. Like the train
mm,
has already left the station. These are statements that came out even a long time ago. Now, all this development and these projects are being built, and everyone's getting all hyped up and excited, and they don't know how to discern what is and what isn't, what will be and what won't be. Um, and that's exactly what they're counting on. They're exactly depending on your failure to see and to understand how the technology is being implemented, how the technology is being used. Why is it being used? Why do they need it as a certain so and so, right? Et cetera, et cetera. It has multiple use cases, not just one. It's not
correct.
just for selling transactions, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's complementary to a few others. Now, people are coming in this space without the data. They're looking at it from one angle only. And this is something I used to talk about 2 years ago, saying, guys, you're only looking at things from one perspective. And that's why I try so hard to bridge um, the economics, the geopolitics, the financial situation, the banking system, and the digital asset space. All of it together, when you bridge it, that's when you really understand how this technology is being used. So you can't just talk about money and pretend to talk about money looking at it from only one angle. Come on, that's just common sense. So you have a lot of idiots in this space, and they're making things a lot harder for people to understand. And I am 100% convinced of that at this point.
Correct. Correct.
Mhm.
Man, there's a lot of speak about, man. But if you
Yeah,
wanna add anything before we wrap it up, of
wrap it
course.
up. Oh, okay. Well, I was going to talk a little bit about the history.
I was just saying that we to I mean
Yeah,
we
I
kind
got
of
off
hit
I
somewhere
got off
around that.
topic for a bit. Naturally, this is how
Oh,
conversations go. We kind of get off topic because it's all tied in together anyways. Now, again, we talked about history. I'll try to make this quick. It's a lot of information though, but
yes.
so again, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it does replay with a twist, right? And I think that's what we see happening today because much of what we think we know has actually been hidden. And what right now you have to uncover the truth through going back into the records, the data, right? And what you see is like patterns that are pretty much driving everything, the perceptions and the world we see today. So some of like the suppressed history that isn't widely shared, that's been deliberately kept out of public eye over decades, centuries probably, is through the Vatican, the Club of Rome, and many other bizarre organizations and cults that are now connected to the very power plays that we see happening in the real world. So much of the history pretty much centers around Khazaria. I don't know if I can say that word on here.
Because oh yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
I got to be careful. Yeah. But it's pretty much a kingdom that it was, it existed between, I think, the seventh and eighth and, yeah, seventh to 10th century.
Mhm.
Um, so this was a very long time ago. And guess what it's called today? Modern day Ukraine. So what's
Wow.
interesting, yeah, if you go back and do research on
Mm.
Khazaria itself, it was a nation, it was an empire once, where Ukraine is. And it wasn't just any kingdom, it was actually a center place in all of Europe at the time, of corruption, rituals, very dark practices. Um, and these are the rulers of this land practiced in sacrifices, and many other abominations that we can't talk about. So they were known for their brutality. Let's just leave it at that. And it was around, like, I think 800 AD when a Russian czar warned them. He warned their empire and said, "Hey, we're going to give you an ultimatum because of what you're doing." Right? They said you have to disperse and align with one of the major religions, and that was at the time, early Christianity. Islam was there too, and of course Judaism. Um, so what did they do? They actually mixed themselves and converted into Judaism.
Mm.
Now I got to be very careful here, but they didn't do it as part of a spiritual and genuine conversion. It was really a political move at the time to gain favor, to avoid assassination, to avoid retaliation, where they could eventually deceive people again and work in secret to continue the practices under a false banner. And that's how deep it
Mm.
goes. So these people were not originally Hebrews. Okay, they adopted the culture and the customs of the Hebrews
Hebrews.
so that they can cover it for their continued practices. Now, yeah, over time, these very same descendants became what people know as the Bolsheviks, and they were responsible for the Russian Revolution, which killed 50 million people, or something along those lines.
Oh yeah, correct,
Yep.
correct.
And
Wow.
later on, they were called Nazis,
Nazis.
the same bloodline.
Yeah.
Yep. They're the ones who committed crimes against humanity under many false names, many different names, to the point where basically their tentacles, you could say like an octopus, right? They eventually spread out through all of Europe, and that's where you get the early Rothschilds. Rothschild means red shield, and they spread through the Rothschilds to the Vatican, and eventually
Mm.
into the United States through the Jesuit order, where they created and infiltrated institutions, like I said, created and infiltrated, like the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of 1913, the IRS, the FBI, the CIA, the National Security Agency, and even Congress on both sides. So
Correct. Yes.
that bloodline
Hmm.
of control is what people today call the deep state.
The deep
Yeah.
state.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to acknowledge that people will say in the comments, maybe, no, it's the Club of Rome, it's the Committee of 300, it's the Jesuit order. Well, the truth is, it's all of them together. They have been involved in maintaining the network of influence through the United Nations and behind the scenes of both political parties. And their ultimate goal was to manipulate global narratives, wars, and basically to ensure the power structure could survive so they can remain intact and continue to do what they're doing right now, divide and conquer the world. And almost done. I'm sorry, man. It's just there's so much
No, of
information.
course. Yeah, so
But,
much information about history. Yeah, especially
yeah,
like
yeah, it
as you.
never ends, man. But
Yeah,
it's important to know this stuff so you can understand where we are today. And I'm not finished. It gets different,
it gets
right?
different.
Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's some light at the end of this. Um, but these are the same bloodlines that aren't just limited to political influence. They actually have intertwined with the global financial system, the media, mainstream media, and the military-industrial complex. These are the very same forces that brought World War I, World War II, and World War III. They're trying to bring World War III now,
Mm.
with countless other conflicts like chemtrails, the green agenda. I mean, it goes on, guys. And all of this stuff is still in play today. So they use pretty much chaos and war to steer us in a globalized digital system under their control. And I think that's where we are today. But of course, to my brothers and sisters who are patriots, like myself, I'm a real patriot, guys. Um, I might not act like it, but I am. I will admit that I have seen some evidence to support that certain military generals and intelligence factions are actually trying to destroy and dismantle this ancient bloodline and its grip on the world. So there is something positive, and I think they have to allow certain geopolitical events to unfold in real time so people
Right.
can eventually realize and witness that this is a battle between good and evil, whether it's in the shadows or in the light. But if you're paying attention, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I wish I can go on, man, but it's just it
Of
goes
course.
deeper and deeper, and it ties into the whole digital stuff. And my final thought really is that you have to maintain your individuality, and one way to do that is to think critically for yourself. Um, there's a famous quote that I love, and it's "I think, therefore I am."
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember the guy who said, "I think too much"?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
guy, some guy got angry at me. He's like, "Versan, I love your content, but you think too much." It's like that's a good thing, right? Don't you want
Right.
me thinking? I think for myself. I was like, "That's a bad thing? Are you kidding me? This is what keeps my individuality as a
Right.
human being, right?" Um, See,
Yeah.
they
That's who you spoke
they
on the phone.
understand that. The 1% understand that. They
Yeah.
don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to come up with concepts that are very in depth. They don't want you to have that ability to be an individual. They're trying to make us a collective. It's like a Star Trek
Right.
episode, like the Borg. You know, you
Yeah.
must assimilate, become an idiot like everybody else. No, no, thank you.
No.
Yeah.
There.
That's what makes me human.
It's funny because like normally right now people currently right now they would rather overthink and use their thinking to destroy themselves, self-destruct themselves when they look at themselves at the mirror and they feel that destructive, mindset. Like basically their mind is just against them instead of with them. Now, if you're a critical thinker, right, for what we're doing with our minds, we're trying to benefit from what we're thinking and what we're trying to solve because there's a lot of issues and demonic things that is happening currently, like you said also, like it's Babylon, it's like
Yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and people would rather literally at night be depressed, right, and think for themselves about things that is beyond their control when we could, at least for us right now, to benefit from our minds and befriend our mind instead of our mind turns against us. And that's why
Yeah.
how we solve our problems, and we adapt, and we work what we can control and we can adapt to. And that's why a lot of us right now, uh, we're doing okay. We try to manage, and the people who are not making the actions and they're keeping doubting themselves and their mental state is not okay. You'll see them literally just homeless and couldn't
Well,
stay
let's
with.
hope not. We
Correct.
as
Yeah.
individuals, as people, as human beings, we have to hope for the best. We have to pray for the best. And always lend a hand when you can.
Right.
But it's getting to a point where everybody has to carry their own weight, and you can't get sidetracked right now more than ever.
Correct.
And it's hard because there is no doubt a global psychological warfare going on that's been waged on the population. And instead of attacking us head on, they've resorted to more covert methods. And I think one of them is like the lockdowns, manipulating our health, changing history, changing our minds, our thinking, our values. Certainly, just look around the world. We have lost our values like you wouldn't believe. People are still dying in our name, but we don't care, right? I mean, that's just the American dream, not giving a shit about anybody else. It's very sad. And the global push for mass, you know,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny because also before I let you proceed, but it's like telling a philosopher, like an intelligent philosopher, that they think too much.
yeah, I mean, that's silly. It's like,
Right.
yeah, go do your research. And they're like, no, you shouldn't do your research. Like, that's bad, doing your research. No, I don't think so. In fact, there's just so much deception out there. I think it's necessary to do your research so you can keep your humanity.
Correct.
And the population is so conditioned by fear. lies, propaganda. And I think many people are losing their ability to question what is really happening to this day and to critically think about what's happening to. So, as this late awakening begins and accelerates, I think the right thing for people to do is to demand answers to what they think they know, right? If you
Right.
demand the answers to what you think you know or what you've been told, whether it's the right or the left, and the new information being revealed, that's the only way you're going to get through it. Awareness is really just the first step. Real
Mm,
change, I've said this many times, it comes through action. You have to hold people accountable, and demand a system that works for everybody and doesn't, necessarily serve an elite class of people. Or a new kind of elite class of people under a new banner once again. And
mm,
that could be your Trumps, your who knows? I've seen them do
who
things
knows?
that make central banks more powerful. Why would they do that? Oh, well, they have to collapse the financial system to bring in the new one. Yeah, but you don't have to do it and impoverish millions of people and put them on the street and make them wait to wake them up. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's the stupidest argument I've heard from many people in the white hat community.
Right.
But I think for all the crypto enthusiasts here and influencers who never speak about this openly, I hope they understand that opportunity is one thing, but without the protection of a digital constitution in a digital world, we're all gambling with our future, because the financial system that's being built today is, I think it's, whether it's decentralized, whether it's centralized, whether it's through CBDCs, and I know it's going to have a little bit of both, right? Um, but I think it's just part of the broader agenda to push us into it. You see,
Correct.
if they can create fear in the traditional financial markets, which is
Mm,
something they have to do already to accelerate this digital system, it
correct.
convinces you and scares you and forces you to go all in digital, right?
It's forced
So
you to change.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we're all now putting money in digital currencies. Do you think that's an accident? Of course not.
Of course not.
And it's interesting
Yeah.
because it came after, the digital asset came after 2008 financial crisis. It's not coincidence. So, the big question people have to ask themselves is like, what kind of world do we want? What kind of world are we actually building? And, get off Twitter and YouTube and, I'm speaking generally, right? Um, and ask these questions because I'm sorry, you know, the digital infrastructure doesn't sound like freedom.
Mm,
They're trying to weaponize it against us and subjugate us, to a system of total control. And this is where I think history is repeating itself or comes into play again. And just as the Khazarians once long ago used deception and manipulation to get into the power structure centuries ago, I think very similar tactics are being used again because they're not stupid. These people are very smart. They play the long game and they steer society towards their vision while
right.
throwing their own people under the bus, like all these arrests. P Diddy got arrested. A lot of people could be staged.
Right.
I mean, they run Hollywood too.
Yeah, I wanna do my research on Kazari even more and be a critical thinker, and I wanna think too much.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, I get headaches sometimes.
Yeah,
I do
but
get headaches
it's
thinking
good
too much,
wisdom.
but
It's good wisdom.
mhm.
But yeah,
And I
but
hope the
of course,
audience appreciates this, and I just think it's valid to discuss these things.
of course.
Because yeah, things are changing very fast, and I think the last line of defense is your voice. Let
Yep,
people know what you're thinking, what you're feeling.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Versan, really for giving me your time here and just speak. And man, it's nice also to speak to you right now because like we haven't been seeing each other for a while right now, and we're trying to plan the trip to see you, and we can do a podcast in person, and present it to the world. But if
that'd be cool.
if you want to add something, of course, before we wrap it up, now we can wrap it up.
I think I'm okay. I've said too much.
All right. All right,
Tired.
man. All right. Take care, guys, and be safe. And make sure you subscribe and like and share the video. And especially go support my cousin Vendel, Versan. Listen, we need to have Vendel on here. I know he's been busy and he's been doing great stuff and the charity he could, you know. So we'll see. Well, that'll be a different day. Well, take care. Be
Yeah,
safe.
just let us know,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
No.
Of
All
course,
right,
of course,
brother. Thank you very much, man. Take care.
of
Okay.
course. Take care. Be safe.
You too.